hello from the U.S. Embassy and from American Center Tashkent. So we welcome you all to another series of our virtual, amazing chai chats. And today we will talk about American football and the upcoming Super Bowl 2022. Okay, so uh, without further ado, let me give a floor to our guests so that they introduce themselves. Yes, please, Nastya.
Hi, everybody. My name is Anastasia Kolivis, but everybody calls me Nastya. I'm a public diplomacy officer here at the U.S. Embassy in Tashkent. And as you might be able to see, I am a New England Patriots fan.
Thank you,
Kyle,
Nastya.
You're welcome. Hi, everybody in Karshi, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the next person is Mr. Sean Daniels, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sean Daniels. I am a management officer here at U.S. Embassy Tashkent. Originally from New York, so I am a fan of the Big Blue Wrecking Crew, New York Giants.
Thank you very much, Sean. And our last guest.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kyle Saltzman. I work in the Office of Military Cooperation.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear guests, for coming today, for taking time out of your busy schedule so that we talk a little bit about American
My
football.
apologies. I think I'm having some.
Already. As usual, there's always something about tech. So yes, we don't have a lot of time, so I will be asking questions from our guests, and they will answer this, and hopefully we will let you know, a little bit. Will inform you about one of the favorite sports in the United States, the American football. Okay, so let's go with our PowerPoint.
Hey, Farouz, and can I just add that we're happy to take questions from the audience, from anybody watching. If you want to ask a question from any of us, please just put it in the chat box and we'll answer questions as they come along from the audience. Thanks.
Yes, please. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. All righty, so we have quite interesting questions today. So probably you have heard or probably have seen some footages, some videos, some pictures of this amazing sport. Okay, so we will start from the beginning. So our guests, Kyle, Sean, Nastya. So can you tell us, how did this American football start? So briefly about the history of American football, please. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyone? Good afternoon. So American football has a very interesting start and is actually very closely related to both what we say is association football and rugby. In fact, as you can see on the slide, we've gone from really what is soccer to now modern football. Next slide, please.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, American football started in our universities. Really at what we call the Ivy League. So this is Harvard, Princeton, and other universities in the Northeast. And it started in the 1860s. And that game that was played, of course, looks very much different from today. When it was first started, you could not pick up the ball. You could not run with it. You could only kick it and advance it. There was no throwing. And then in the 1880s, an individual by the name of Walter Camp, who played at Yale, who coached at Yale, and then wanted to see the game progress, worked with other individuals to basically put more rules into the game. And a lot of this was because the original football that was being played in the 1860s was very brutal. It was very violent. People would actually get killed and die because of the collisions onto the field. So these rules started to give shape to what we see now as modern football. But interestingly, one of the biggest changes was the fact that football went from only being able to kick it to where we can now pick it up and run it. But the forward pass that you see today still was illegal, and it did not become part of the game until the early 1900s, specifically 1906. From there, one of the big changes, and because we were talking about the Super Bowl, that we were talking about how did we get to the Super Bowl, was in the 1920s, a lot of these college players wanted to continue playing after they graduated from the university. So a lot of them got together and started to be able to perform a professional league. Some of the first professional players got paid for playing actually at the end of the 19th century, so the 1890s. I think the first player was receiving money in like 1892. But these games were really not organized. It wasn't until the 1920s that we had our first professional league, which ended up being called the National Football League, much like it is today. Next slide, please. As the Professional Football League, over its 3 or 4 decades of existence, grew in popularity, other leagues looked to be able to try to also form. One in particular was called the American Football League, and that started in 1960. It lasted about 10 years. Well, in 1966, the champions of the National Football League and the American Football League decided to get together and play to see who was actually the best team in the United States. And that became the first Super Bowl, actually played in 1966. 4 years later, it was decided between the NFL and the AFL to basically merge and become one league, which is known today as the National Football League. Today, both of these leagues from the 60s and 70s are actually still represented. All the original National Football League teams are in the National Football Conference. All the original American Football League teams are in the AFC, the American Football Conference. Next slide, which is what you can see today. And so when we have the Super Bowl that is played out today, which is the champion of the NFC versus the champion of the AFC, that's actually back. It's a holdover from the time of when we had 2 separate professional football leagues, the American Football Conference and the National Football Conference. And that is the Super Bowl, why it continues to be played between the 2 conferences within the NFL today. Interesting question for everybody. Do you know why we refer to football as the old pigskin? And do you know why the football, which started out as a round ball, similar to soccer, to association football, is actually in the shape that it is? Any guesses?
I don't know. Maybe.
The reason why,
Yeah, Nastya, do you have a guess?
Well, I don't know. I'm guessing that it's called a pigskin because it originally was made out of leather from pig hide, but I bet there's a better story than that. Ferdous, do you know?
almost close. So,
Okay.
so
I also had the
today,
same answer.
the footballs are actually created out of cowhide, but originally they were actually created out of a pig bladder. And so when you inflated the pig bladder, that's actually the shape that you see today in the modern football. They then used cowhide or steer hide to go over the top of the pig bladder to be able to help keep it a little more, keep the air in. But that's why you will hear the phrase throwing the old pigskin around. And that's also why we ended up having the shape of the football today, is because it originated from blowing up a pig's bladder.
Oh, okay. So Kyle, let's summarize here for some of the audience who have never seen or experienced, have never seen this sport. So you wanted to say that there's one big league, right? American football, and it is divided into 2 smaller leagues, AFC and NFC. So they play amongst each other, and the best ones play, like 2 leagues, they play with each other. When you say Super Bowl, you mean the final game, right? Like in
Correct.
the soccer, they have final game.
Yes.
This is called Super Bowl. Okay.
Yes. So throughout a season, all the teams will play each other. Some teams play each other more often than not. But at the end, when we move into the playoffs, basically the playoffs is trying to determine the best team out of the American Football Conference and the best team out of the National Football Conference to be able to play each other for the right of who is that best team, the champion of the year.
Okay, so playoffs are kind of semifinals, right? The quarterfinals or semifinals.
Correct.
They like 8 and 4 and 2. Okay, thank you, Kyle. We will return back to you. But my question is, Nastya, do you think this is the most popular sport in the United States?
That's an interesting question, Firuz. I think that it depends on who you ask this question to. I have a suspicion that if you ask the three of us that are sitting here, we would probably say yes. We are obviously all wearing our favorite teams' jerseys, and we obviously are big football fans. But I would say in general, the football is more popular in certain areas of the United States than in others, especially below the professional league, like in high school and things. It's very big in the Midwest, in the South. Of course, in Texas, it's a huge thing. But where I grew up in New England, which is the 6 states in the Northeast of the country, it's really not actually that popular. But that said, every single person in the United States watches the Super Bowl. It's like a holiday for us, you know?
Right. So final game. Okay. As we were talking, my computer popped up, and one of our Fulbright T finalists, Venera from NUCO, said that she actually attended American football in Boone, North, in her state. Yes, North Carolina. Thank you, Venera. Thank you. Okay. So,
hey, Firuz.
Yes.
Can I interrupt and mention something that we should have said at the beginning? I think that those of you watching know that we're planning on giving away prizes for those who are paying attention during our little chat today. And I think this is like a good place. Maybe we should stop and ask a question for the audience members. The way we're going to do this is we'll ask the question 3 times throughout the program. And then whoever's the first person to correctly answer our question in the chat box will get a wonderful bag of prizes from the U.S. Embassy. And here we have some books about the United States. We have some mugs, some other maps, and some fun things from the American Center in Tashkent. So I think this is a good place to ask maybe the first of our 3 questions. I was thinking that we would like to know when the first Super Bowl was played. Kyle told you guys about 10 minutes ago. So please put your answer in the chat, and then we will contact you after the program is over if you're the winner, and figure out how to get you your prizes. So when was the first Super Bowl? Please put the year. Okay, go ahead. Take it away, Firuz.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Firuz, if I may add something, when we were talking about popularity of football, because like when Tasha was saying, is it does depend on what region you're in. Interesting enough, the largest football games, as far as the crowd size, still occurs in college, to where a normal professional football game will have about 80,000 people.
Wow.
Some of the college games, especially in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, they will have stadiums of about 110,000 people. College still remains one of the biggest football games within the United States.
Wow, didn't know about that. So college sport athletics is like, and the football is, more into this, American football than the professional level, in terms of attendance and popularity. Okay, very good.
And
So,
Firuz, if I can add something really quickly.
please.
Because if you're judging popularity by how many people choose it as their favorite, I don't know that answer. But especially American sports, but all sports really, are a business as well. And if you're judging business-wise, the NFL is the most popular sport in the world based on revenue. For example, in 2019, going before COVID, The revenue of the NFL was over 15 billion US dollars, which is over 165 trillion Uzbek sum. Compare that to what a lot of people here may be watching, the English Premier League. That's actually the fourth most popular sport revenue-wise, and that was only 6.7 billion US dollars, or about 73 trillion Uzbek sum. So about a little over 2.5 times more popular revenue-wise. So just to kind of get an idea, if you're judging popularity based on money, which a lot of the sports business people do.
Right. Okay, thank you. So actually, it reminded me that
Bruce,
yes, please.
sorry to interrupt again, but I just wanted to congratulate our winner for the first contest giveaway. I see that Asladin Akhmadjanov has correctly answered 1966, which is what Kyle told us the first Super Bowl took place. So we'll be reaching out to you via direct message to get your information and send you your present. Thanks.
Congratulations. Okay, so Sean, can you tell us a little bit, like, how big is a football field compared to a soccer field? And then those gates, are these the gates where they kick the ball? So can you tell us a little bit about that? How are they called, those gates?
Sure. So an American football field from goal line to goal line is 100 yards, so slightly smaller than 100 meters. Each end zone, where you see the red and the blue there, those are 10 yards each. So the total length is 120 yards. So roughly, 110 or so meters from end to end. But you only have to advance the ball to the goal line, essentially. So the posts in the back, the yellow things you see there, we call those goal posts. And there are two ways to score points through the goal posts. So similar to rugby, after a touchdown in football, one of the options for an additional 1 point is to kick the ball through the goalposts, in between and over that bottom bar. And another way to score points through those goalposts, let's say you advance the ball almost all the way down the field, but don't make it into the end zone. You can choose to kick from where you are in the field, and if you get it through those goalposts, it's 3 points.
Okay. So a little bit summarized to what you said is, so those numbers we see are yards, right? Like meters. Let's say meters. So the football field is about 100 meters, the whole football field, and those goals are called goalposts, right?
Correct.
Posts. Okay. So now, which is the next question is, which you already talked about. So the game, the game itself. For example, if you will look here, so these are teams, right? In orange and in this white and brown or black. So why they bump into each other? So if you could be a little bit detailed, like they got the ball, then what do they do?
Sure. So the team in the orange, which is the Denver Broncos from Colorado, they are on offense in this situation. And the team in the white, who I can't see who that is. Is that Seattle? I think that was.
Okay.
I think that was Seattle in the Super Bowl.
Seattle is the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So they're on defense. So right now, the team in the orange, the Broncos, are moving from right to left on the screen there. So you see they're at the 40, but the arrow is pointing backwards. So they actually have 60 yards or meters to go to score a touchdown. And the Seattle in the white is trying to stop them from doing that, of course, on defense.
Right.
So they start off in formations similar to this every play. The formations vary based on what they're trying to do. And the offense is trying to move the ball forward, and the defense is either trying to stop them or take the ball away. So there are a number of different variations of how that can happen. And why they bump into each other from the start, the two essentially fronts they have, the offensive line and the defensive line, as they call them. One is trying to attack the quarterback, who is, if you look on the bottom right there, number 12, Tom Brady. The team in the black in that photo, the New Orleans Saints, is trying to tackle him, essentially throw him to the ground. And those guys in the white there, that's the offensive line. They're trying to protect their quarterback from getting tackled.
Oh, okay. So yes.
Sean, the way you just described it actually sounds like a game of chess to me. Is it sort of similar? I mean, there's a lot of strategy, and you're trying to protect the king, right? No?
So there is a lot of strategy.
Yes,
There
But
is,
so similar to chess.
There's a lot of strategy in football as well as the athletic part. So in addition to outplaying, you're trying to outthink the other team as well.
Okay. So all right. My question is, if we summarize. So there are two teams, and each team has 4 chances to get 10 meters, 10 yards.
Correct.
Right? 4 chances. For example, if a team in the brown in this orange, if they cannot get 10 meters, then they threw the ball to another team so that they start.
So you're correct. You have 4 plays, 4 attempts, which in football are called downs. So you have 4 downs to advance the ball 10 yards. And if you do that, you start over at first down, so you get 4 more chances. Generally, though, if you don't make it on your 3rd try, depending on where you are in the field, but generally on the 4th try, most teams choose to kick it, which is called punting, to get the ball basically as far back into the other team's field or defensive zone as they can, so that the other team has further to go. Because if you don't get it on your fourth down, you lose the ball. The other team gets the ball where it is, so you can lose a lot of field position, which could be very valuable, as the other team would then have much shorter to go to score against you.
Okay. So you said something touchdown. Can we say touchdown as a goal in soccer?
Yes. So obviously, in European football, soccer, you have to get it into a net or a goal. Here, you only have to cross, as you can see on the left picture here, you only have to cross that white line into the end zone. And it's not like rugby where the ball actually has to touch the ground. You see in rugby, when they get past, they slide and touch the ball to the ground. You don't have to do that here. The ball just has to get essentially into the airspace of the end zone.
Okay. So how many points do you get for that? For 1 touchdown?
6 points.
6 points. Okay.
And then you get your chance to kick the ball, which they call the extra point, through the goalpost for an extra 1.
Oh, extra. So 1 goal is like 7-0, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
there are other variations. There are options to get 2 points, but for the most part, teams go for the 1 point because it's the easiest.
It's the easiest. Okay. Very good. So, Nastya, any other quiz questions, or shall we continue?
Well, actually, I saw that there was a question from the audience that asked how wide is a football field, and I don't know the answer off the top of my head. Do either of you?
Oh.
So from side to side, I don't know if this is exactly correct, but I want to say it's something like 55 or 52 yards. I think there's a fraction in there. I think it's like 52.25 yards or something. It's something strange.
Oh.
I don't know why. Don't ask me why.
50 meters, right?
Approximately 50 meters, yeah.
About 50 meters. Okay. Very good.
So the answer is that none of us know, but it's not super important to the game.
We're looking to go forward, not side to side.
Yeah. Actually, next question is what was my question? I was going to this question. So how heavy is that ball? Kyle, anyone? Sean?
Maybe it depends how much air you
It's-
have in it. Ask Tom Brady.
Oh, Dania, you asked a very controversial question.
Okay. Okay. Let me
The weight of the
clarify
football.
to the audience that what Sean meant was one of the players. Okay, here number 12. A couple years ago, I think he was He was accused that as if he asked his people and his team to deflate the ball, to take the air out, so that when he throws the ball, it's easier to catch. But the audience, it was not proved. It's just he's the best player. That's why, So okay.
Yeah, he was accused of cheating.
the weight
But
of the
anyway,
football
how
is
much is the
actually about
football
400
supposed to
grams.
weigh?
Yes. Kyle?
Sorry, I think I have a little bit of connection issues. The weight of the football is about 400 grams, so it's actually very light. And this is why in very bad weather conditions, football games can be very fun to watch, not necessarily fun to play in. And throwing that football can become very difficult. In fact, talking about New England, earlier this year during the season, there was a game between the New England Patriots and Buffalo that was played in such bad conditions that both teams did not want to throw the ball. They basically just ran it. I think they only tried to pass a couple times because the wind was blowing probably about 30 miles an hour, which I'm not sure what the exact conversion of that is. But it was to the point where the ball would go up in the air and then just go in a completely different direction. So the ball is light enough that the wind will greatly affect it.
I was back in the United States for that game. It was played in Buffalo, which is pretty terrible weather for those of you that don't know. It's in Western New York, but the weather in New England was also really bad that day. And it was just, everybody felt terrible for all of the players, but they still continue to play no matter what, whether it's raining, snowing, -20, they still play, which also gives some of the teams an advantage over the other teams. Like if a team from Florida, for example, has to go north and play in Wisconsin or in Boston, they're not used to playing in the snow, and it's really difficult for a lot of those players to try to play in conditions like that. So the geography affects the game and how people play too.
Okay, very good. So the next question says, is it easy to get a scholarship for the university if we play football? Which was the next question. How do these players come to the team? You have mentioned a number of teams, like you said, New England Patriots, you said Denver Broncos, Seattle Seahawks. So how is that recruitment process? Do they have a transfer window like in soccer? How do they do that? Anyone?
No, so and it's not just football. Our professional leagues, from basketball to baseball to hockey to football, tightly control how teams come into the actual league. So what happens every year for football is we have what's called a draft. And what is really going on is all the teams, based on their performance from the previous year, will have a certain ranking from 1 to 32. And so the worst team gets to pick first. And what they're really picking is football players that are coming out of the college game that are eligible for this draft. So these people that are eligible, they must be either a certain age or have played college football for a certain amount of years. These individuals are then drafted by all the teams, and those become the teams that individual has to play for over the first 4 or 5 years of their career. After that period of time has passed, they then become what is called free agents. And then they can go and they can sign whatever team that they want. So we can have a very good player that goes to a very bad team, but still shows that he does very good, and then he will leave that team and go someplace else that will pay him hundreds of millions of dollars for them to go play.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Al-
And uh-huh.
Ferdous, can I
also,
add something? Oh,
Yes,
so
please.
go ahead, Kyle.
a question is asking, how easy is it to get a scholarship at the university if you play football? It's actually very difficult. They're very competitive. You have a better chance of getting an academic scholarship at an American university than you do a football scholarship at an American university.
Mhm. Oh, wow.
I just wanted to add, in addition to that, that there are a lot of people on football teams. We didn't actually talk about how many people, and I don't know on a typical NFL team. It's more than 50, I would guess. Do either of you know? It's at least 50, right?
53.
Yeah. Okay.
Plus
So
a practice
even
squad
though-
of about another 20 people.
Okay, so like 75-ish roughly. Even though there's that many people, it's still definitely not easy to get an athletic scholarship, even if the team is huge. So, sorry, a football scholarship, not a sports scholarship, really.
Which kind of proves the point of Kyle when he talked about the revenue. So if there are like 50 to 70 players, so do they all get paid? In professional football, is it equal pay? Is it how is that work budget wise? I can see like billions of dollars here.
So in the NFL, the National Football League, there is a minimum salary that all players will at least get. From there, it's negotiable. It's between the player and the team.
Oh, okay. Okay, so when you said free agent, then he can dictate his rules, right? If he's that good.
Yes. So
Okay.
even the average player, when they are a free agent, they will see what team is willing to be able to pay them more. Some teams will have a better ability to be able to offer more money, but most NFL players fall at the minimum level, and I think the minimum is about $200,000 to $250,000 per season. So they make a decent amount of money. It's a lot of work that they're doing for that amount of money. But yes, the vast majority of players on an NFL team are not making millions of dollars. Like what was said, you have 53 players. You probably have another couple dozen that are on like the scout team. The majority of these players are making usually about the league minimum.
When you say per season, it means per year.
Yes.
And they 250,000, then they divide that money per month, and then they take out the tax
Per game.
So per game. So what if they are injured and they are out from the season? Like, do they still get paid?
If it's in their contract, yes. If it's on their contract.
Okay. Thank you. So next question is, if anyone can answer, it's a simple question maybe, but a little bit different. Where do they get their uniforms? They are so colorful, and is it the team decides, or is it like how do they get to choose? Any idea on this one?
I actually don't know the answer to this. Does anybody else?
The team gets to decide. So the teams will decide on their color schemes. And they will change their uniforms from time to time. The teams will also have special uniforms that they'll wear throughout the season. The New England Patriots, for example, are notorious for wearing their uniforms that are very ugly and very bad looking from like the 1960s and the 1970s. But they'll wear them proudly out on the field. But yes, to answer your question, the teams get to pick the color schemes. They get to pick how they want the uniform to look.
Okay.
I hope everybody in the audience realizes that Kyle said that because Farouz and I are both wearing New England Patriots uniforms.
Let's see
So,
if we have.
know.
So this is the white one. When you see on top left, it's the most beautiful jersey. So we want you to, to know about that. So this is New England Patriots. So, all right. So thank you very much. Now let's move on.
Farouz, I think maybe it's time for another quiz. Can we ask another question real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody, pay attention. Here comes question number 2. How long is an American football field? And you can answer in yards or meters. That's okay. But we told you a couple of times, and it was in one of the slides. So please put your answer in the chat box.
Yes. And there was one more question. We just kind of we skipped that question. The question was, why is it called football? Although they catch and throw the ball. So yes, why the game is called football.
It's called football because when the game originally started, you were only allowed to kick the ball. It was the American football started as a variation of association football and rugby. It wasn't until it had been around for 10 or 15 years did American football players actually were allowed to pick up the ball and start running. But that's why it's called football. When it started, you could only kick the ball.
Okay. Now this is clear. All right. So now let's move from the games, from the how they play. So entertainment. Okay, entertainment. So let's move to the next slide, which is called Super Bowl. Okay. So who can tell me what is Super Bowl and why is it so famous and why is it so important? And a tradition of Super Bowl? Anyone? The Americans, when it's Super Bowl, they do this. For example, in Thanksgiving, they eat turkey and so is there a special food, special occasions, special things that they do in Super Bowl?
Well, Kyle, do you want to talk about what the Super Bowl is first and what it means, and then we can talk about cultural traditions afterwards?
Yep, I definitely can. So the Super Bowl, of course, started, as we previously explained, between what ended up being the 2 professional leagues in the United States, and their champions would meet and they would play what was the ultimate game, the Super game. And that game would decide who was the best team in the United States. These 2 separate professional leagues ended up combining and becoming what we know as the National Football League today. But the tradition of the Super Bowl stayed and is now played between the 2 conferences within the National Football League. And of course, one of the conferences, the National Football Conference, is the original teams from the 1920s that played in the NFL. The American Football Conference is full of the teams that was this rival professional team that came about in the 1960s. And so through television, especially, this game got broadcast into America's homes throughout the United States. Television and the invention of television kind of goes, or the popularity of professional football really kind of goes in hand with the expansion of television within the United States. And so it became an event for a lot of Americans to be able to sit at home and to be able to watch the Super Bowl, which gets back into all the traditions that go along with that, to include the massive amount of food that is consumed on that day. And I'll let Sean or someone else talk to that.
Okay, I have several questions that are interconnected with each other, so I will ask you one by one. So how much is a ticket to the final game, Super Bowl, cost compared to regular season ticket? Is it more expensive or is it the same?
It's definitely more expensive. Oh, go ahead, Sean. I'm
It
sure
is.
you're gonna say the same.
I happen to have numbers.
Oh.
Because I like to know those things. So yeah, average ticket prices during the season, that varies by team and by stadium. I'm not 100% sure on those, but for the Super Bowl, it is definitely the most expensive ticket of the year for any American football game. And just as an example of how ticket prices have grown, so initially, the first Super Bowl, which was during the 1966 season, as we learned, tickets were what translates to about $90 today, or about just a little under $1 million soon. This year, however, the face value, or the price of the ticket if you buy it firsthand, is what we call face value, is roughly between $1,000 and $4,000 US. So about 11 to about 44 million soon. But most people don't pay the face value of Super Bowl tickets. There is a very big business of reselling Super Bowl tickets, because you can sell them for a huge profit. For example, I said they sell for typically between $1,000 and $4,000. If you were to try to rebuy a ticket off of someone who had one this weekend, right now, or as of Friday when I found these numbers, the average resale value is about $10,000, or about 109 million soon. Right now, if you look on websites, the least expensive ticket that's left is about 76 million soon, about 7,000 US. And according to the NFL's website, the most expensive ticket for this game this year is 180,000 US, which is about almost 2 billion soon, for one 60-minute game.
It must be a special place, right? Where you can see the whole game. Not like very far. Okay. All right. Yeah. So the next question is, can anyone talk about the halftime show? So what is it? And like, who are the singers? Like, how are they chosen?
You guys can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that nowadays it's different. It was different from, in the beginning, I think it was just marching bands that were the halftime show traditionally. But at some point it switched to, as everybody knows, I think that advertising is huge in the United States, and Super Bowl commercials are something that has become a tradition, that they're tied to our pop culture and things. And I think Sean's going to talk more about the ads, but I believe that the commercial sponsors are the ones that sponsor and choose the halftime show every year. Is that right, Sean? Did I get that right?
Yes, so you are correct. In the beginning, for a long time, I don't remember exactly when, but it was just marching bands. A lot of times it was, because the Super Bowl moved to different stadiums, it was the local university's marching band or something like that. And I don't know what year they started using professional artists or popular artists, but that's certainly what they're doing now. And interestingly enough, because it is such a big marketing tool for these artists, Super Bowl performers, at least nowadays, do not get paid. It is a free performance they put on, but it leads to more either fans or record sales or concert ticket sales in the future. So it's a big investment for them. And this year is a big throwback to early 2000s. We have Dr. Dre. We have Snoop Dogg's going to be there. Eminem. Probably a few special guests. I think Mary J. Blige is going to be there. So a lot of people, my age especially, who were in high school in the early 2000s and in college in the early 2000s, are really going to love reminiscing when this halftime show comes out. Some of your parents who may have been listening to that music when they were younger if they can stream the Super Bowl on the internet, they might really love the halftime show.
So you want to say that all these famous singers and rapper will come for free?
They will perform at the Super Bowl for free because of all the benefits that will come after it. Increase, I guess, I'd say record sales, but probably downloads now, if we're talking realistically, and increased streams and increased ticket sales and all that.
Okay. So speaking of advertisement, so it must be really expensive to have your advertisement, your ad on TV during the Super Bowl. So how much does it cost? Is it calculated per second or per 30 seconds? Any idea about that?
Yes, it is the most expensive advertising space that I'm aware of. So they charge it in 30-second blocks. And this year, to buy a 30-second ad space, it is $5.5 million US, or roughly 60 billion soon, for 30 seconds.
Wow.
And a lot of companies, that's just for the airspace, by the way. That does not include paying to actually create the commercial. And a lot of companies, when they make these commercials, they try to make them as memorable as possible because they're spending a lot of money. So they include a lot of celebrities, which also is an added cost. They go well beyond 30 seconds. So companies will purchase 60 seconds, 90 seconds. I believe the most expensive ad was last year. Amazon had an Alexa ad that just to buy the time was about $17 million US dollars. And then they had to pay the actors in that commercial and make the commercial. So this is over the $20 million commercial for 90 seconds to tell you about something you probably already know about, which is Amazon.
But I mean, why is it so expensive? What's the reasoning behind that?
So, they'll charge what they can get essentially, but the reason behind that is because the Super Bowl is one of the most watched events in the United States, if not the most watched event. So between TV and streaming, about 100 million people will watch the Super Bowl each year over the last few years. It's grown, but over the last few years, it's been about 100 million people a year.
So there's
and Produce, I wanted to say, I saw a couple comments in.
Yes.
Well, there are a few comments and questions that we've had. Some of them are quite hilarious from fellow Americans watching.
Yes.
But I did want to say that even if you're not a football fan in the U.S., most people watch the Super Bowl anyway for a couple of different reasons. I see Venera's comment that she didn't understand the rules when she went to a game, but she still loved it. So there's a lot of different reasons that people watch the Super Bowl. We just talked about one of them, the entertainment. The halftime show is awesome. It's always somebody, like, they're pop stars that most people know. And even if you're not a football fan, you're going to tune in to see the entertainment at halftime. Yeah. But also a lot of people have parties. You can see this picture of the bus. I think that's Jerome Bettis, right? The guy wearing the black and yellow shirt with all the food. He was a player for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
People have parties and invite their families and their friends to their houses, and everybody gets together in one place. Sometimes you go to a bar, but it's usually at a house. And you all get together and you eat food that's really bad for you. And so I saw Asladune's comment about the Super Bowl is the second highest eating day. It's true. Look at all the food they've got here. There are lots of things that we eat that are tied to football culture. The biggest one I can think of is wings, football wings. And they're right in the front of this picture, the front right. Those are chicken wings, and they're called buffalo wings because I believe the sauce was made in Buffalo, New York. But it's football, is associated with chicken wings, that type of chicken wing specifically. And so we have a lot of foods that we eat that are sort of snacky, but also, you know, a lot of them are cold weather foods too, for those of us that, you know, football's played in the winter. And so a lot of the teams are from cold weather areas. And so things like chili are also popular, stuff that's going to keep you warm. But in general, football is notorious, which means that it's known in sort of a negative way of being tied to like junk food. But we love it.
All right. Very good. Very good.
And
So,
no, James, I don't think that there's ever been plov served at the Super Bowl. I could be
Yeah.
wrong, but I'm 99% sure that there has not been plov before.
And there's a good question.
Yes.
One of it was earlier. Yeah, it was earlier question, which I really like this question. Who has the most number of Super Bowls won? So
It's not the Giants.
not the Giants and not the Broncos. So yes, which team has won Super Bowl more than others? So this guy. So the team is New England Patriots. So 6 Super Bowls. Yes.
But there are actually
And
2 teams, right?
The Steelers have won 6 as well.
Steelers. Yes.
Yeah. So there are 2 teams in the NFL that have both won the Super Bowl 6 times.
Mm-hmm. So next year it'll be Patriots again. So it'll be 7-6, I think. So
Fruiters. Oh my goodness.
all right. Mm-hmm.
So we only have five more minutes left, everybody. But let's do one last trivia question before we wrap up, if that's okay with you all.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Who can name 3 of the 4 Super Bowl acts this year at the halftime show? Please put the comments in the chat box and we will get you your prize. Also, congratulations to Vanera for getting the second question right. I think that seems very specific, but 91.44 meters is probably likely 100 yards, I would guess exactly. My math is not that good, but I will take your word for it.
And while people are coming up with their answers, great question from James Talalay, I think we might want to discuss. So the 2 teams playing in this year's Super Bowl are the Cincinnati Bengals, and their mascot is a Bengal tiger, and the Los Angeles Rams, which, of course, their mascot is a ram. And great question, if we brought the real animals together, who would win in a fight to the death? And I think we need to have another session simply to discuss this question. I think there would be some heated debate.
Well, luckily, we're going to have part 2 to our Super Bowl series next week after the Super Bowl is played. And James, you might actually find out what the answer to that is, because you never know what's going to happen at the Super Bowl. Things get wild and crazy, and there actually might be real animals there. So tune in next Wednesday at the same time, 3 p.m. to find out.
Mm-hmm. So Nastya, the last question, who do you think will win? Let's make our predictions. Is it Rams or Bengals?
Oh, what? Oh, you asked me, you know. I'm one of those fans that, like, if my team's not playing, I'm not that interested. I'm going to watch for the halftime show. But, you know, the Super Bowl starts at 4:30 in the morning, Tashkent time, and that's difficult. So we'll see if I actually get up and watch it this year.
Okay.
I mean, I probably will, but I don't. Full disclosure, I don't have a favorite. Sean or Kyle, do you guys have a? Who do you think?
Prediction.
Rams are going to get the
score.
Bengals.
The score.
What do you think the score will be, Kyle?
A lot to a little. I'm rooting. I'm rooting for. Yep, I'm rooting for the Rams because of Dominican Sue. So.
Oh, okay. So Rams, Sean.
So I'm actually gonna. I mean, it doesn't. My team is not playing in this, so it doesn't matter to me who's going to win. But I think I like the Cincinnati Bengals for the only reason that they've never won the Super Bowl. They've only played in it one time, and they lost. That was in the early 90s, I believe, with Boomer Esiason. The Rams have only won it once, so it would be okay if they won. They won in 2015, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong by that. 2002, maybe. Time slips by. But it was a while ago, before I was working for the embassy. So I would like to see the Bengals win, but I won't be heartbroken. Interesting about this game, it's being played in Los Angeles, the Rams' home stadium, which is a rarity. It's only ever happened one time before, which was last year. But usually the Super Bowl is played in a different location. So the odds that a team plays in their home stadium is something that's only happened once before. So the Rams might be more comfortable. They don't have to travel. They can stay at their house the night before, not in a hotel. They'll be in their regular locker room. Everything will be normal for them. So they have a good chance.
Yeah. All right. Let's see.
Cruz, you seem to know an awful lot about football too. Who's your pick?
Oh, well, I think I will go with Bengals because Rams, they defeated Tampa Bay Buccaneers with my favorite quarterback, Tom Brady. Well, the defense didn't play well. So I hope it's Cincinnati Bengals 24-17.
Okay, well, I think our time is up. So everybody, please join us again on Wednesday, and you can find out who was right and who was wrong today about making their predictions on who won the Super Bowl. And we'll be talking about specifically what happened in this Super Bowl and during the halftime show and things like that. So please come back on Wednesday at 3:00, and we'll see you again then.
Thank you once again. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for
and
coming.
Thank you for joining us.